Alrighty, hey, there's some people here, yay! Thank you so much. Looks like I've got a couple of subscribers. Acrylic Chemist subscribed at one point, and it looks like Renru just came in here and subscribed, so thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. That means a lot. I think those are my first two subscribers. How awesome is that? I'm digging that. So we're gonna be throwing some special stuff for subscribers to hey Renru, to kind of say thank you. I think what we're going to do is when we do giveaways, which is going to start very soon. When we do giveaways, I think the subscribers are going to get like extra benefits or something like that. So we're figuring out exactly what that means, but there's going to be some awesome stuff. So we are going to be working on this figure today. This is a gorgeous sculpt. I love it. From RN Estudio. I guess maybe Estudio. I don't know. He's Spanish. Um, but this is a figure that I 3D printed. Some of the 3D prints these days, guys, are just gorgeous. There's so many painters that are doing just crazy good work and releasing them as STLs. Like this was part of last month, so part of July's release, and you got like 20 figs for $10 as far as the STLs goes. Right? They really do. Just some, yeah. You've been doing some of the the RNE Studio pieces too. Um, so this is one that I'm actually trading this for some bourbon. So I've got a friend who kind of makes his own bourbon and stuff like that, and so he has like Cthulhu bourbon and Strahd bourbon and all these kind of like RPG themed bourbons, and they're pretty good. So I end up trading booze for for minis. It works out, you know. So we're gonna kind of speed paint her. See how it goes at least. There's a few places on her I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do. There's something back here that I'm having trouble figuring out exactly what I'm gonna do with it. I can't tell if her skirt just like doesn't cover her butt crack. I think that might be what it is. Um, Sell it for what I find valuable, right? Second one is a secret project. Oh, secret projects are fun. Um, so yeah, I think kind of the colors that we want to go for, we're gonna go with some nice bright skin. And then we're going to go, I think I'm going to back myself off just a little bit so I got a little more working space. We're going to go with some nice bright skin. I think we're going to do mainly kind of a cold white for most of her dress. She's going to be blonde, and then any kind of color accents that we're going to do is going to be kind of blue toned, I think is what we're going to do. So just kind of getting set up here. One of the things I just kind of do is visually kind of go over the piece and kind of think about, make sure that I don't have any pieces that I just don't really know what I'm gonna do with. Her armbands are not super clear to me what I want to do, but there's definitely going to be some gold trim. So I guess it's mainly going to be like, I think we're going to do this part up here as kind of a gold, and then we'll continue the white here and then have a gold band here. So we'll do the same on the other, along with the kind of drape being white. I think we're going to do the tassels we might do as a light blue. The problem is I don't know that I want the tassels white. I don't know. It's hard. The tassels are the part that I haven't really been able to decide on. And then her boots are going to be kind of an ivory, kind of white toned, with some gold accents on the shoes. And then yeah, so she's going to be. Ooh, I didn't see the edge on her dress, so we're going to do the edge on her dress probably as a light blue. So I think that's how we're going to tackle it. We'll see. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to just real lightly airbrush the skin base on her, because I really like airbrushing the first base on skin because it just goes down so smooth then. And when you're in this, so when you get up larger scale, when you get up to like this scale, you actually want some texture in skin. Texture in skin is a good thing on this scale. It makes it more realistic. When you're in like this scale, it's a bad thing. Like texture on skin looks off on this scale, in my opinion. So you need it to be rather smooth, and laying down just a real nice smooth coat with the airbrush really is one of the things that I like. So we're going to be using I really like the Reaper skin tones. A lot of my paint I do these days is Pro-Acryl, but I really like the Reaper skin tones. So we're going to do the Bright Skin Triad, which looks really funky on camera. Move this out. Looks really funky on camera, like those are strange colors for skin, but they end up looking fantastic on the Mini. They really do. The only difference is we're probably going to go one level higher. We're probably going to pull it up to like a bright ivory. Probably going to finish with a bright ivory. And then we will probably take it and we'll throw some magenta in the shadows and stuff like that. Yeah, this is one Triad that I bought totally on faith, because like every time I looked at it, I was like, this looks insane. Like, how does this produce good looking skin? And I tried it on a miniature. Miniature's over in the display cabinet. I can't get it right now. I tried it on a miniature and I was like, oh snap, that's fantastic. Like, I was so happy with that. I'm just setting my air pressure here. I'm going to be somewhere around 20, I think. So, doing this, we're going to add in... We're going to be... On skin, I don't like to start from the shadow. I like to start from the mid-tone. I feel like if I start from the shadow, I end up too dark on the skin. So I usually start from the mid-tone, and then I kind of glaze the shadows in first. So airbrush, put, first thing you always want to do whenever you pick up your airbrush is just run some water through it. If anything's in the airbrush, it's going to let you know if you got problems, stuff like that. If it's not spraying good with water, it's not going to spray good with anything else. It will also, any cleaner, dust, anything like that you've got in there. So I'm going to put a little bit of airbrush thinner, that's Vallejo airbrush thinner, and then we're just going to take some of that bright skin, and we're just going to put that in there as well. Just going to mix that up. I'm probably about 50-50 here. So hopefully that's good. Every time you airbrush, every new color that you airbrush is always going to be a little bit different. The viscosity, everything that you do with a new color, it's always going to be just a little bit different. So you know, if somebody tells you you always airbrush at a certain ratio, they're kind of full of it. You just never do that. So we're going to kind of test our... That's probably about where I want to be. And then when you airbrush, it's not like a spray gun. Like, you don't hold it down or you're just asking for trouble. We're just going to do little bitty areas, little squirts. And it might take us a time or two. Probably a little thin here, but that's not the end of the world. It's going to take us a couple of passes, but we're going to end up with just such a nice base coat. We want to make sure we're getting all the skin. If we overshoot it, that's not a problem. Just paint. We can always paint over. This did have a zenithal prime on it, but the zenithal prime was not black and white. It was, we'll grab the color here real quick. What was it? It was this. It was red-brown. It was a Steinilres red-brown. And I really like that as an undercoat from skin, because when you do a black undercoat from skin, it really desaturates the skin in the the shadows. And skin does not look good desaturated to me. It really looks very dead then. So we're just trying for a nice, oh, I was missing her shoulder. So you can see we're already getting most of our skin coverage. And because it's the airbrush and we're using nice, I was missing her shoulder up here too. And we're getting nice thin layers. We're getting some of that pre-shading that we did is working out in our favor, right? So we're getting to keep some of that. And it's going to make all the skin just a lot easier. And then what we'll do is we'll come in with the airbrush here and we'll just give the skin a little bit of blast of the highlight and the shade just to kind of reinforce things, right? And then we'll come back in and finish it with the brush. I'm not sure how fast I'm going to end up doing this one. I really like this sculpt, and I really want this to turn out nice. So I've been tempted, if I like this one, to print off a larger one and enter it in a contest that Estudio pieces qualify for. I don't know though. I haven't decided. Alright, so we pretty much got, I keep missing shoulders, like I was gonna say we're pretty much done, but I keep missing these dang shoulders. This is while I'm waiting for that to dry, this is the Infinity, the hardened Steenbeck. There's a lot of different airbrushes on the market. Almost any airbrush will work one way or the other for what we want for mini painting. This particular one just has some features that make it a little nicer to use, but there's definitely nothing special about this airbrush. So as soon as we kind of finish up here, just making sure we got these shoulders. Alright, I think we're good enough there. Because the places that I'm missing, I'm about to hit anyways. We're just going to go ahead and we're just going to rinse this out with some water. All I'm doing is I'm taking a squirt bottle. There we go, squirt bottle with some water. And just rinsing it out. I'm not doing like a full color change where I'm running cleaner. I'm just running it until it mostly runs clear. And when it's mostly clear, I'm going to put the next color in. And then when we're all done, we will run some sort of cleaner through it. I just realized I'm pretty much out of cleaner though. So that's fun. We're going to go ahead and move to our highlight tone next, which is the bright skin highlight. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to add a little bit of thinner in there. We're going to do about half and half. I hope everybody's having a good night. If you're painting something, feel free to drop a link. Feel free to share what you're painting. Like, I love seeing other people's work. It's fantastic. There's so many good painters here on Twitch, right? Like, there's so many people doing great stuff. If you're not following Renru there, make sure you go and follow her. If anybody can do a shout out there, that would help me for Renru. So you can see this is just a brighter, it's a really saturated highlight. Saturated highlights are great. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do this zenithal style. We're just going to come in at a real high angle. And it's not going to be dramatic here. It's just going to make our life just a little bit easier though. Right? So you can see we're starting to get that skin like we want it. And then that's all we're going to do with that whole color. That was it. Like, the entirety purpose of loading that up was to do that. And what we're going to do then is we're going to clean that color out real quick. Because that just gave us a lot of volumes there really easily. But you're never going to get away with only doing this for skin. We're just taking, because this is a speed paint, we're just taking some cheater steps right now. And then we're going to come back in with the brush and do some more. So now we're going to load up the shadow color and we're just going to hit it from under, right? And we're just going to give it a few blasts from under. Again, we're about 50-50 on the shadow color. And I just got paint all over my hand. Look at that. We are working, if you're just joining us, if you're here for the first time, thanks for stopping by. So we are working on this lovely Estudio figure. I am the spotted painter, and we are doing some airbrushing, right? So we're just testing our viscosity there. We're good. And we're just going to hit this from under. We're just going to let this catch. Oh, you know what? We didn't do her back there. That's okay. That's mostly going to be shadow anyway. So we're going to catch it now. This is the point where if you haven't painted something at all the skin color, you're going to make your life very difficult later on, because trying to match everything would just be not fun. All right. So we're going to attempt to get her face a little more the cheekbone. So we're going to crank down our air pressure a little bit here. Yep. And then we're going to come in just underneath her face here, right? There we go. And all we did there was add a little bit of shadow, right? All right. So while we let all the airbrush colors tend to be delicate, okay? So they are not, because we paint in super thin layers, the layers themselves tend to be more delicate. So I don't recommend that you just go straight to brush right after you did a bunch of airbrush stuff. You're just kind of asking for trouble, because it will come off on you real easy unless it's had a chance to dry. I'm just cleaning out the airbrush, guys, real quick. So it's a good time to kind of move on, let it set, let it dry while we do some other colors on it, and then we'll come back to the skin. Let's go ahead and knock her hair out. If you're doing blonde, I haven't done blonde hair in a long time, actually. 6 months maybe. If you're doing blonde, you gotta kind of pick how blonde you're gonna go. We're not gonna be like super crazy ultra blonde, but we are gonna throw some of this in it. This is a warm yellow from Chimera Colors. It's just a beautiful, beautiful tone. It's probably one of the only straight up, I wish Pro Acryl made this color kind of paints. Most of the time I can kind of substitute something else, even if I wanted to do something else with the what's the word? Even if I wanted to do something else with the skin, I could make Pro Acryl work. It's just easier a lot of times to make the triads kind of help me out for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the hair, and with a blonde hair, I start from brown, okay? And we're just going to start throwing down some brown. I'm using Pro Acryl paints for this. Thinned a little bit, but not a lot. The goal here is I would love not to be putting down more than one layer on this. I would love it if I could get this in one layer, and it looks like I can. I am not a fan of too thin coats to the point where we have to put down multiple coats. Like, I am a one coat person if it can be one coat. There's some colors, there's some things that you just don't get to be one coat. But the theory that all paints need to be one thin coat is just crazy. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, I'm just trying to make sure I'm still on camera here, guys. And the thing too is, if we don't get total coverage in some of our like highlight areas right now. Well, guess what? We're using a shadow color, so it's not really a big deal. Like, we don't get total coverage. We're really not messing anything up because we're going to be overpainting like 90% of this anyway, right? Okay. So we're going to take, gotta get down in there. Sometimes this is where I really hate doing it on stream, because it's much more difficult to be super precise on stream. Like later on tonight, I have to film how to paint eyes real quick. That's gonna be fun. Like, filming that's gonna give me like a nervous breakdown. We'll see. Alright. We're gonna let that dry. We're gonna go ahead and start basing some of our white parts while that's drying. We're gonna base everything in this gray blue. If you want to paint white, you've got a couple of options. You can either start white and shade down. You can start at a lighter color like blue and shade up to white, and that's going to give you kind of a cold blue. If you start at something like an ochre or a brownish or a dark ivory color, that's going to give you more of a warm white. So it just depends on entirely how you want to do it, right? So there's tons of different ways that we can tackle that. As far as giveaways go, what do you guys want? Like, if you could have any kind of giveaway, what's your ideal? Do you want unpainted minis? Do you want painted minis? Do you want lessons? What is up, Katie Paints? Welcome to the channel. If you're not following Katie Paints, go give her a follow. If somebody wants to do a shout out, I would appreciate that. We are just working on this lovely figure from Estudio. It is such a great piece. We're just gonna get all these places that I'm gonna make white. The more we kind of block her colors in, the more careful we're gonna have to be. That's one reason I don't often tend to block colors in all at once, because I don't like to be real careful. But when speed painting, when trying to be fast, it's really kind of needed. Like, otherwise you spend a lot of time waiting for things to dry. Hobby supplies and painting minis. I agree. I like seeing stuff from other artists too. It's always nice to have another figure from a different artist. Okay. I'm not so big on winning unpainted minis, right? I have approximately 1 million unpainted minis. That's why whenever somebody is like, I'm giving away unpainted minis, I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess. But some people really like it. There's some people out there that, man, they love getting that unpainted mini. We're just trying to get some of this blocked in while we wait for other things to dry. What are you working on right now? Katie, I have a ton of unpainted minis. It's never enough, right? So I like to tell people that, like, you know, painting minis is really like multiple hobbies in one. There's, you know, actually painting the minis, and then there's collecting mini supplies, and then there's collecting unpainted minis. like, all right, I'm gonna put on some magnifiers because I gotta do. Let me see if I can do this on stream. We'll see. Okay, is this in focus? Let me move this a little bit. Having to see. All right, I'm trying to do this on stream, guys, because her little boob strap here is gonna be tedious to. This is the point where if I get something on this skin, make my life a lot harder. Okay. I think I succeeded there. Yep. Okay. Where's it go back here? There's not really a back to it. I can't tell like what's supposed to be back here or not. We're just gonna pick and we're just gonna say that like most of this is this, because it'll make things a little easier if we do that. So let's just do that. Okay. I think that's kind of what it is anyways. It's a little more obvious on this side. I'm doing this with a Raphael 8404 size 1. Okay. Then turns out that goes back like that. Alright. We may have to fix the other side because it turns out her skirt is like that. And I did the other side like that because I couldn't tell. I can kind of see now. So we're going to let that good and dry. And then we'll touch up the skin on the back. It's one of those places you'll never really see anyways. So I'm not too terribly worried about it. We're just going to give this just one more coat here. We're not even going to be real careful. Because we're about to start hitting it with some texture and stuff like that. So yeah, there's collecting hobby supplies, there's collecting paints. You know, some people have a million paints, and then there's, you know, when you actually start to paint minis. Like painting minis is only like a small portion of the hobby. Oh, I didn't get down in there at all, did I? Okay. When you're speed painting, it's often kind of critical to think about what is important and what is not. So the portions of the mini that you're never really going to see, like, don't spend a lot of time on them. Don't kill it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to mix some of our ochre, our yellow ochre, with our brown that we just did. And we're going to start on the hair. We're going to do that while we wait for the rest of the stuff to dry. And we're just going to, the important thing with hair is that you not worry too soon about individual individual strands of hair. Like don't try to paint individual strands of hair early on in the process. It will not work out. So what you want to do is you want to treat hair like a time limit on the speed paint. Normally I would say like 2 hours, but the problem is I really like this sculpt. So I'm just going to attempt to do it quote unquote fast. Like, I really like this one and I don't want it to turn out crappy. We're going to try to do it, quote, just fast. Huh. Okay. So we're looking at that now. Started collecting oil paints. Oil paints are, I love me some oil paints. I'll have to do oil paints on the channel at some point. So, like I was saying with hair, the other big thing with hair, as you start to highlight, what you have to make sure is that when you're defining things, your brush, once you want to do with the line of the hair. What you don't want to do is cross and almost like dry brush. It will not look good. It just definitely does not look right. So we're going to step this up. We're going to go into our yellow ochre. This is pretty much solid yellow ochre. And this is where we've got to start paying attention, though, to our volumes a lot. Also pay attention to my brush stroke. You're going to end up with the most paint on your brush where your brush ends. So if I drag the brush down like that, I'm going to end up with more paint down here, and I really wanted more paint up here. So I've got to go up. So your brush direction matters a lot. Okay. So you can see we're already definitely starting to get in that, there we go. We're starting to already get into that kind of blonde thing. We're going for kind of a golden blonde here. So the guy that I'm trading these for, we both agreed that she felt like a blonde. Again, we haven't even really started messing with individual volumes yet. We're still just working on volumes. And then as we get towards the end of the highlights, we will start picking out some more individual volumes. Hair needs to be really high contrast though. So you're going to want to go pretty bright with hair, and you're going to want to do some nice darks in hair too. Okay? You can't be afraid of it. It ain't going to hurt you. It looks like we have right in there. Okay? We're about at our mid-tone here is about where we're at. Important thing to remember whenever you're doing something, whenever you're highlighting up, is almost always you're going to want the majority of the color to stay in the mid-tone. It becomes very easily, especially when painting high contrast, to go straight from your shadow into your highlight and kind of skip over midtones because it looks very high contrast. It just everything also ends up looking like shiny metal then. So we're going to start adding some bright ivory to our ochre there. Bright ivory is just a really good color to highlight with. It gives things a nice warm tone. But because we start adding white into things, things are going to get very opaque very quickly here. So whereas before our brush strokes were really hidden because yellows are very translucent, our brush strokes are going to get way more obvious now. So we need to be very deliberate about our brush strokes, or they're going to be very, very, very visible. Okay, this is pretty thin down. This is pretty thin. And we're just working up the highlights here. The hair on this piece is such a highlight that we're going to spend a good bit of our time on this. I'm probably going to cap the stream at 2 hours, whether or not I am done at not, because that's midnight, and I don't know that I really want to be painting tonight much more past midnight. So if I'm not done at 2 hours, then I will make the decision whether or not I'm just going to finish her up off stream or save her for on stream. The hair's looking pretty good though. I'm liking it so far. We're just kind of highlighting. Alright, we're going to start stepping it up a bit more. And then we're going to take that golden yellow there, and we're going to glaze with that here in a minute. Because that's going to tie a lot of things together. Give us a really nice tone to the hair. And hide some of our... Oh, I'm off camera. And hide some of our thing, because I'm about to start going a lot brighter. See, these are really starting to pop now. Because I've added a lot more of that bright ivory in there. Which means the brush strokes are really going to start. See, like, look at that one. That's just like, bam. Brush stroke. And that's okay. We're starting to occasionally pick out some individual strands just to give them a little more attention. We want the hair to have a lot of character. So we don't want to paint it totally just as volumes. Right? Okay. The base was light umber, and then yellow ochre, then yellow ochre, and moving up to bright ivory. And so now we're almost entirely bright ivory there. And then we're going to come back in with some glazes, maybe even a wash, and pick out and kind of blend things together. I'm so nervous about this mini and the way it's attached, because it is got a very small blue point right there. And I am so sure that I am going to end up breaking her off. Just coming back in. Trying to make sure that we got some variation. We've got enough contrast. We had some sort of rogue stroke or something down here. I don't know what happened down there. My brain was like, put white down there. I don't know what happened there. Okay. So this is kind of where the hair's at right there, which, doesn't look bad. I think the side hair looks a little off. Partially that's because she's wearing some sort of headband thing. And I'm not really sure how the sculpt on that really is. Kind of weird. There we go. That looks a little better. So the other thing I really like for blonde hair is Sepia Wash. I will often let some sepia go into some cracks and stuff like that. Just for whatever reason, it's a really nice tone. So we're going to throw down some Seraphim Sepia. I don't have a lot of washes. I don't know. I use washes, sometimes, but never like over a whole mini. Like I'm not going to wash a whole mini. That's silly. Why would you do that? Why would you spend all this time doing that? So we're going to go ahead. I think we're going to go ahead and wash the hair first. And it's going to, see, it gives us that nice tone, and it's also going to help with the definition a little bit. We'll come back in once the wash is dry. We'll see where we're at. We'll probably need to re-highlight a little bit, and then we'll hit it with the Chimera Golden and call it done. On camera, not quite. I just really like the color the sepia ends up bringing to the hair. Like, it brings that warmth to the hair. You see? Washing a whole minute. You're killing me, Katie. Killing me, Smalls. Alright. So what else needed to be this blue? I think her shoulders, her arm things, we decided we're going to be blue. Right? This thing's going to be blue. I keep getting too far that way. I swear, guys, if you've never painted on camera, it's just like a whole different level of respect for people who paint a lot on camera. It's just not easy. Like, there's just nothing easy about painting on camera. You're constantly having to think, okay, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? How long are we at? We're at 45 minutes already? I don't know, guys. This may not be as much of a speed paint as I hoped. We'll see. It's going to come together quick. Airbrush did a lot of the work on us for the skin. It did more than I hoped, actually. There's a lot of that skin I'm not going to touch too terribly much. Okay. And then this white should come together pretty quickly, I'm hoping. So I think a lot of this mini is going to be spent at least a half an hour or more is going to end up being spent on the little gold bits and stuff, which I don't really like doing. To be honest, I like doing what's the word? What's that? I like doing, do we get CPM down in there? Why is that looking wet? That makes me nervous. Why is that wet? Okay. Oh, we missed this little bitty spot right here. It looks like it didn't. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. the cross and everything. I just tend to move. I would probably not pay attention. You know what? Let's do this. All right here is the frame. Let's try doing that, right? So if I'm right around there, I should be in frame. We'll see. Something keeps getting wet right in here. It's so weird. Must be that wash. All right, I think, what do I want to do next? I'm not real happy with the idea of making her boots this cold white. Like, that looks like it would be really boring to me. But brown is not going to look good. Black's going to draw too much attention, but white's going to blend in so much with all the rest of that stuff. Probably save the boots last then. I'm just not really sure what I want to do. Looks like this little bit up here should have been skin. Let's just throw a little skin tone in there. Purple lavender? Maybe. I might. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just really torn on what to do with the boots. I'm afraid if I make them too much of a color, then they're going to be a focus, and I really don't want them to be. We're just trying to let this wash on her hair, all that get good and dry, and then we're going to probably tackle the skin. I think we're free to tackle the blue whilst we wait. So what we're going to do is we're just going to we took the gray blue, right? And we're just going to start mixing in. We're going to go all the way up to white. I'm trying to think if I want to do an intermediate. I've got, do I have anything lighter than that I can do intermediate? It's kind of a cold off-white. I don't think I do. I mean, this is fine. Let's just run with it. We're just going to have to take really small steps, guys. Like when you're moving up towards white, you just have to do really small steps. Trying to decide if I want to introduce texture though. Problem is she's such a delicate look. I think if I did that, it would be, I should have done that like earlier, like before I did anything on the skin. But if I would have done that, I wouldn't have been able to airbrush the skin, and that was a massive time saver. So I think we're just going to do some layers on the skin, on the blue here. So we're just going to slowly work up blue. I'm going to give myself a little more room here. There we go. And what we'll probably do is do this where the layers are somewhat visible to save some time. And then glaze something over it. I don't know. That's hard to do with white, because then that's going to kill our brights. So I think I just hate doing kind of traditional layering. Like, it's so rare for me to take a large area and be like, I'm going to paint it layer by layer, because I think it's like boring as hell. So I don't know, guys. We'll see. Right now I'm just layering up slightly, and then I'll probably make a big jump here in a moment, because this is going to take forever. And I really don't want it to. I'm kind of an impatient painter. Like, I feel like minis should be painted faster. Like if I take more than, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours on a mini these days, I just get really impatient. Yeah, see, that's gonna take forever. Alright, new plan. Bigger brush, a little bit of texture in the cloth. It'll look better anyways. This brush. Let's do our smush brush here. And do, that's about the same time it takes you, yeah? Alright, so we're gonna stipple. And because I think it's gonna be more visually interesting anyways. And then that'll take care of all the big areas. And then we can come back in with a smaller brush to handle. Oh no. Oh no, that's what I was afraid of though. I just got some on the skin. I got it off. Okay. Slip of the brush, and I got it on the skin. If you slip, just get some water on there real quick, and you can get it off. So this is going to give us a nice texture anyways. Big areas of smooth stuff is super boring. And then we'll figure out how smooth we want it to be. We can always come back in and kind of smooth it out. Right? Because I think this is ending up a little too blue for me. We might have started too blue. And we need to go a little more white. White is not a color that I paint a lot. Like, I don't know. These smush brushes and makeup brushes are so nice though. Like, they, I love the randomness of their texture that they give. Really works for doing things like cloth. We're just taking and not cleaning my brush as I move up the highlights and stuff like that. That's kind of a no-no. If you get this brush wet, you then kind of have to figure out how to dry it. Yeah, all the smaller stuff's going to be pretty easy. It's this bigger stuff. You know how tempting it is to take the airbrush right now, though? Maybe I should do that. That's what I'll do. I'll get most of it done like this. And then we'll come back in and we'll smooth it out a little bit with the airbrush. There we go. And then what I may do, desaturate some of these blues in the shadows by glazing some grays in there. Because it's just, I really wanted just a cold white and it's coming off a little too blue. Right? Oh, I'm off camera. Need to get an airbrush. Oh, airbrushes are fantastic. Like, when I first wanted to get an airbrush, I wanted somebody to teach me how to airbrush. So I looked up an airbrush artist, like in the yellow pages kind of thing. And I was like, hey, can you teach me how to airbrush minis? And he's like, that's insane. No one in their right mind would airbrush a mini. Like, you don't airbrush a mini, you just paint it by a brush. I'm like, I'm pretty sure, I'm almost certain that people do this. Like, I don't think I'm making this up. And he's like, no, man. He's like, nobody uses airbrushes on a Mini. He's like, that's not right. Like, really? So weird. So eventually, I think that's looking good. It's starting to look better. And what we'll do is, so eventually I found somebody local who would teach me airbrushing. Scott Warren, local guy. Alright, so at this point we've gotten a lot of our color and our texture in. What we really need to do is start focusing more on highlights, right? This is straight pure white at this point. Yeah, well, Angel is Angel's a whole other thing. Like, how much Angel can do with an airbrush is like straight up dang impressive, is all I gotta say. Alright, so remember, this is a speed paint. So we're really just trying to get where we want to go fast, right? Alright, so that's kind of the general tone that I want. And we got most of that faster with that. Alright, we're right at an hour. Now I'm going to take a different brush. I still don't want to use quite a pointed round because it's going to make my life harder than it has to be. This is a very small cat's tongue called the Filbert. And we're going to do some of the smaller stuff with that. Remembering that we don't have to do a lot of the details. We can be rough with the details to start and then kind of refine them as we get closer to the highlights. We don't need perfection because we're going for speed paint here. If this was, a studio paint, or especially if it was a competition piece, like, it would be just an entirely different approach to this. Like, you would just see me doing whole different techniques. But the idea is that we want a Mini that looks good, that we can use on the tabletop with not a massive amount of effort, right? Okay. And I think we're going to end up achieving that. Yeah, Angel. That dude's amazing. At this point, I've got some pure white on this little brush. I'm a big fan of non-traditional brush shapes because they tend to make you both faster, and I think they blend easier a lot of times. I think like a pointed round brush is about the most difficult thing to get to blend right, because what it's really good at doing is making a line. And how often do you want a line? like how often do we want like a nice, most of the time a line is kind of what we're trying to avoid. So very rarely, until you get down to the point that you just really need precision, do I try to use my, I think I got a little bit on there. Let's see. I try to avoid using. We're gonna come back in and smooth this over because this is a little rough on our boobs there. Okay, then we're just doing this kind of as a final step, and then we'll smooth some things over. We'll decide what needs to be smooth, what doesn't. I'm gonna start on the face real soon though. I think we're gonna try to come back in with the airbrush on some of this white and clean that up. We'll see. We'll see how much I decide that I want to spend on it. That's the thing. Like, this is a gorgeous mini. I really would like to do it justice, but I also don't want to spend forever doing it. But at this point, I'm finally to the point that I'm kind of taking an actual round brush. This is where, when you get to highlight, we talked about this a moment ago, your brush direction really matters. Like, wherever you leave the brush, like, that's where the most of your paint is going to be. So if you want more paint in one area than another, you gotta make sure that you draw your brush in the appropriate direction. It is not immediately something obvious, but it is one of the ways that we get nice, good gradients. Right, on her sleeves. Hey, Melite, how's it going? If you are following along and you're new to Twitch, because I think some of my Facebook people have wandered over, feel free to follow. That's free. If you like what you see and you'd like to help me out a little bit with a subscription, if you're an Amazon Prime person, you get free subscriptions. All you got to do is connect your Amazon Prime account, and then it will give you one free subscription every month. You can feel free to use that on me or somebody else or whatever you like, but if you like what you see, if you feel like you learn stuff, I'd appreciate it. If you are a subscriber, we're gonna announce some I'm probably gonna announce some giveaways later this week. I'm just trying to finalize what they are. If you are a subscriber, then when we do giveaways, effectively you're gonna get bonus stuff. So, do I give feedback? I would love to give some feedback, sure. If you toss a link in chat, we can talk about it live on air. I can send it to you live if you'd like. However you like, but sure, we can do feedback. This is coming out a little more light blue than I'd like, but I'm gonna roll with it. Because it gives kind of that icy feel, right? Which is ultimately the look that I was kind of wanting for her. Okay. Okay. Alright, so the hair looks like the wash is dried. So here's the problem with a wash. If you go to paint after a wash, all of these washes are satin or some are even straight up gloss. And painting thin paint over satin and glossy things will make the wash, will make the paint over it want to be beat up and not lay smooth. What is that? Not what I thought. Thought it was. Well, where'd it go? I have some actual matte varnish. It's hiding from me, y'all. There it is. So, we're gonna throw down some ultra matte over the hair since we put a wash on it. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna give us a really nice layer to build on. Ultra matte is not only super matte, but it has a little bit of what you call tooth to it. So the paint really likes to be laid over ultra matte. Like, it just grips on it so nicely. Alright, while we wait for that to dry, I'm going to throw some on the face too, because I think some wash might have gotten on there. I'm going to go ahead and throw some ultra matte on the rest of it since we're going to be letting it dry anyways, because the airbrush thinner produces something that's a little satin too, and if we're going to be doing some glazes here in a moment, it'll make our life easier if the surface is ultra matte. So we will do that, and then we will go look at his picture here. I just realized I don't know, I've never set it up to show a web page. I think I can figure out how to do that on the fly. Let's figure that out, should we? I should probably make that a thing at some point. Let's grab a keyboard. While we're waiting for that to dry, we're going to check out his thing. Okay. That's on. I don't think this is showing anything, right? Oh, that is broken link, bud. I cannot click on that. Must be private. Sorry. If you want to host that somewhere else or something, I'll be happy to take a look at it. That is a private link, and there's nothing I can do there. Okay. Alright, so we're waiting for that to dry. Got that. We still have to decide what to do with these dang boots, though, don't we? Let's look at our color wheel here. See what we got here. Because I really don't want the boots to draw attention. So we've got some stuff over here. We're gonna have golds over here. So we definitely want to stay away from over here. Like, this would be really bad. Because it would just immediately draw attention over here. So yeah, we might just do white boots, I guess. That means we'll need to go back to the blue, because the blue is kind of our white here, and then I think I might just put off the boots a little longer. I'm just really not super excited about that yet. I don't like how much blue is in the white shadows, so I think we're going to tone down. We're going to try to make a real thin glaze of white. White does not like to glaze because it's super opaque. So we're going to try. Yeah, that'll work. All I did was just mix some white. And we're just going to we're going to tone down our shadows a little bit, because I really wanted it to be less blue, and it's awfully blue. The advantage of this is that we can also smooth out some of our stuff, and we're just a really thin white right now. We're just using this to smooth some things out. White is honestly a terrible color to paint. Like, I don't know why I suggested this. I don't think we're gonna make our 2-hour. Alright, that one should work. Alright. Give me a minute here and we'll test that one out. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna make our 2-hour suggestion, but that's okay. Yeah, so our thin white here is getting me more in the range that I was wanting for with this. That's just real thin white. Okay. All right. I'm happy with that. It's less like blue. It's still definitely blue, but it's there. All right. All right, so let me, all right, we're gonna take a look at his picture. We're gonna give some feedback here, assuming I can get to it this time. Let's take a look here. We'll come up with a better thing to do for that. You know what, let's do this. I'm gonna throw it up on the screen here. Give me 1 second. Alrighty. Alright. So let me take a look here. Alright. So, looks like we've got some sort of robot cyborg kind of thing going on. Yeah. So, alrighty. I like the color views. It's kind of hard to tell on some of this because the picture's a little bit washed out by the sun. The purple is nice. I like your color choices. Purple and your teal there are really nice. I would say what this really screams out, if I had to pick like one kind of area for you to focus on, it would be some brighter edge highlights and definitely more shadows. Like you have a lot of your mid-tone purple that's kind of all the same mid-tone purple. The purple doesn't really differentiate itself. You've definitely got some edge highlights. I see that lighter purple in some places, but like kick it up a notch and go like even one more edge highlight, and it's really gonna make those areas pop. And then if you take like a darker purple and like glaze down, I don't know how to make my mouse appear. I don't know if I can. If you take like a darker purple and kind of glaze from a panel to where it's a lighter purple and then shade it so that the panel itself has some differentiation, that would help a lot. Overall, it's a fun piece though. Your color choice was excellent. The purples and teals is great. Her skin tone has a little bit of that purple in it. It feels like the green on the end of her gun draws your eye there. Your palette was great. I really like your palette there. But yeah, overall, I think especially some more edge highlights. And then I'm always a fan of dark lining. Dark lining is what makes things magical. It is way underrated. It creates separation on things that otherwise don't kind of have separation. Okay. It looks like our mat is almost dry. I get the feeling I'm not going to get to the boots this time. I don't think this is going to be finished this time. I like this piece too much to rush it. I shouldn't have picked this for speed painting, guys. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back in now and we're going to touch up the hair a little bit. We're going to add in some brighter things, and then we're going to give it one more glaze of this golden yellow, because that's just really gonna kick over it. Dark lining is scary. It really is. All right, this is gonna feel really opaque. Because it's got a lot of white in it. That's okay. I'll tell you what I do with dark lining is I add some flow improver to dark lining. And what flow improver does for dark lining is it makes it more likely to flow just in the crack. And that's ultimately what you want. This transition right here is probably a little harsh, but dark lining? I don't know. It's it's kind of fallen out of favor with some painters. But if you like look at like Rhonda Bender and those people, they'll tell you the number one thing you should do to boost contrast in your work is dark lining. And literally all it means is taking a dark color and making sure that there's a separation between elements. Here we go. This is one of the ogres that we did as part of our paint along here, right? So what it means is that we need to make sure that there's a dark line between, like, this is a good example. There should really be a dark line right there because it's going to help separate the two. It creates a natural shadow. So I really like using black ink for dark lining. I take black ink with a little bit of flow improver, and what it does is it just really pops the separation between the elements. So if we take this area right here and we just take, and all we're doing is just adding a dark line like that, it's just really going to make, it's like literally like outlining the different elements of things, and it's just really going to make it seem much more three-dimensional. See, that little bit just helped right there. And if we come in here, we come in like right here, and we just, it may not show up as much on camera, but sometimes this is, if we come in, this is another good place. We come in on the bone here, and we're just adding in a dark line right there. Put in something up here. There we go. And it just helps separate it. We're talking about separation. It really can be a dramatic, especially if you've got things that are similar colors. It can be a dramatic difference. So, yeah. Dark lining is something that is way underrated, in my opinion. All right, we're coming back to the hair here. We're not going to do a whole lot on the hair because overall I really like it. There's a little too much. We're going to bring back in a little bit of this ochre here for some of our mid-tone here. Just to help transition some of these. The nice thing about the ochre is it's a very saturated color, so it just really pops, right? And it just, so you can see the hair is starting to really take shape. And again, one of the reasons we're spending probably more time than I really anticipated on this hair is that it's kind of a highlight of the model. Like, she's got just this gorgeous hair. So now I've got a real bright color, and we're just going to do the very tops there. But there. Now what we're going to do, we're going to come back in with this color. It's a very transparent color. Like, this color really does not cover well, but it does an excellent job at tinting. If you use too much of it, it will definitely just suddenly transform everything. Very golden yellow. So I'm just going to make a real thin glaze because these Chimera colors are so strong. They're a small batch Italian company that does only what's called single pigment paints. So there's a lot of paints are multi-pigments, so we're just glazing it over here. We're just adding, that means we're adding it as a filter. And it's just going to transform this golden wise. A lot of paints are made from multiple pigments. So you might have, if you've got, here, I'll do some examples while this dries here in a second. And this just helped tide everything that we've done together. This just brought it all and gave us almost a real word like Disney princess kind of blonde hair, which is what I was wanting here. Right? That's kind of the hair we were looking for. Let's talk about single pigment paints and other paints real quick. All right, you take a paint like this. It's going to have some blue in it, some blue pigment, and it's going to have some white pigment, and possibly one or two others in there. And so what that means is when you have a mix of pigments and you try to mix other paints with this paint, you end up getting muddy really fast. It's difficult to mix colors very quickly. Whereas all of the Pro Acryl paints, or all of the Chimera paints, are only one pigment. There's never white mixed in this paint, which means it's never going to get real opaque on me unless the pigment is naturally opaque. If I mix this with another color, if I mix a blue and a yellow, I'm going to get green. Like, I never have to worry if it's going to be like a muddy color all of a sudden, which happens a lot with multi-pigments. If you like Reaper paints, some of the Reaper paints are single pigments. They call them clear. It'll say clear right there. That's clear magenta, clear yellow. That doesn't mean that they're like a transparent paint. Transparent paints are different. Transparent paints are most often single pigment paints. But transparent paints are kind of a different effect in general, but the Reaper clears mean that they are a single pigment paint. All right, guys. We've done a lot. Let me see, where should we go next? I guess we'll tackle the rest of the skin now. So what we're gonna do, let's tackle the shadows first. Yeah, everybody thinks that with the clears, that they're the transparent, and they're more transparent because the normal paints because they don't have white in them, but they're not transparent like the Pro Acryl transparents or the AK transparent or the watercolor. That's like a whole other thing, right? But what really makes me mad is when I go on like the Reaper group and somebody in there is telling somebody that they are the transparent paints, and then they argue. And it's like, you've very obviously never used them. So I'm adding these bright skins, and I'm just kind of hitting the shadows right now. We're just reinforcing our airbrushing earlier with some brushwork. And again, because this is a speed paint, kind of a tabletop paint, we're not going to be worried super careful about a lot of things that I might normally worry about. We're just trying to make sure that things are basically where we want them. Okay. I stay out of those Reaper arguments. I used the clears on transparent resin prints and they did really well without primer. That's cool. Let me think about what you're saying. Oh, okay. Yeah. I gotcha. Sure, I can see that. You stay out of Reaper argument. I don't blame you. Like, I don't know. So, most of the time, I'm really good. Are we happy with the hair, by the way? Do we like the hair? I'm not like super excited about the hair, but I think overall it works. Like, for the amount of time that I've spent on it, it's fine. The clear magenta, yes. I think it can go lighter. It definitely can go lighter. Like, we could definitely add some more bites to the hair, and I may yet. We'll see. I'm just touching up the skin here. It doesn't need a whole lot of work. I was pretty happy overall with kind of how the airbrush did on the skin, but it definitely needs some more highlights. So we're just reinforcing some areas. The nice thing is I don't have to paint everything now. The face actually looks really good. Like, that saved me a crap ton of time on the face. You really like the dress? Yeah, it's just super simple. I mean, you know, it was a piece of cake and took basically no, super easy. What was I gonna do? Oh, skin. So I'm working up to my bright. Where's my bright? There it is. So at this point, we're on the bright skin highlight. I'm fairly thin here. And then we're just going to kind of be working with it. Again, your brush direction matters a lot. Make sure that your brush is leaving strokes where you want to deposit the most amount of paint. When you're painting a face, I'm gonna have to put on goggles for this face. Faces are so tiny. I feel like I'm getting old. Alrighty. Ooh. I have my other set of glasses around here somewhere, and I actually like the other ones better, but this will have to do. Am I still on camera? No. I think I'm gonna have to get there. I have a ring light coming for the camera that I think is gonna help with getting even better light on camera here. Alright, so let's talk for a second before I do this actually. When you're doing faces and you're painting highlights on faces, if the light's coming down from above, which for most gaming figures we kind of assume that it is, where you want to put your highlights, you want to put your highlights here, and then on the outside of the cheeks is the most highlight, okay? So right here. The nose, however much highlight you put on the nose is really going to change the shape of the face. If you give it a real sharp, long highlight, the person's going to have like a real pointed nose. If you give them just a highlight on the tip, then they're probably going to have almost like a long witch's nose. Okay, if you give them a highlight on the bump up here, just up here, they're going to have more of a rounded nose. It just really depends on the look that you want to give. I almost never recommend highlighting the entire length of the bridge of your nose the same, though. It just doesn't look as good as if you pick kind of one place or the other. So all we're doing now is just giving, this might be our highest highlight, we'll see. Fairly thin paint. It's so bright though, it's really hard to see on this. Okay. If you feel like you've gone too bright in an area, just take your midtone and kind of glaze over it a little bit. And what it'll do is it'll leave a lot of that brightness, but just soften it up a little bit. That's what I do a lot on faces, is kind of take I'm into, hey, Metalhead Minis. I appreciate the raid. What is going on, Lynn? If you are just dropping in, then welcome, welcome, welcome. I am the Spotted Painter. I am attempting somewhat successfully, unsuccessfully, something to do a speed paint. The problem is I like the figure too much to fully speed paint it. You know what I just realized, guys? Unless she's like buck naked, that should be blue. Otherwise, this is a naughty print. What's up, Len? So thanks for dropping in. If you've been on my channel and you're not already following Metalhead Minis, go over there and give her a follow immediately. She's amazing. She's also a super nice person. Thanks, Metalhead. This is a great figure, right? Like, this is from Estudio. It's actually a 3D print. It's from their last month's Patreon figure. And we're just talking about some different techniques and how to paint it and all sorts of stuff like that. So, yeah, of course. We appreciate the raid. We're just in here hanging out, having a good time. Yeah, definitely go check Metalhead out. She's super cool. So, yeah. I suppose I should give her some panties, guys. Like, yeah, that kind of dawned on me as I was painting her. I was like, yeah, I suppose she's probably not. She's definitely kind of the temptress style of figure, but she's probably not quite that much. So, I don't know. The guy that I'm painting for this, I swear he only picks out like scantily clad figures. It's kind of funny. Like, I've had to tell him no to a few. Yeah, it's fine. Raid and run. I appreciate it. So, go hit the hay. I'm a night owl. I'll be up for who knows how long, probably another couple of hours at least. If I go to bed before 4, I'm lucky. So, but it's okay. Have a good night. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, he only picks out like ridiculously scantily clad women for me to paint, unless I talk him into something else. Right? Sleep? I don't know. There's this sleep thing, right? I got to bed not last night, but the night before at like 2:30, and like that was like amazing. Like how does that even happen? I don't know. I think it's because I knew that I had to get up at like 7 o'clock, right? So I don't know. Up to 2 painting. Yeah. The number of time a 4-month-old. Well, that'll do you right there. Like that alone is just, terrible. All right, let's go ahead and block in these panties because that's going to drive me nuts. I can't believe I didn't think about that. A 4-month-old though, whew. That's busy, Katie. Like, I do not miss those times at all. Like, there are people out there that like, oh, I miss the baby years. Nope. Not even slightly. I don't. I mean, getting out of the baby years and getting out of diapers, like that's like getting a raise. Like legit getting out of diapers and getting out of formula. I hear you, Ren. Like, I don't blame you at all. Like, I'm sorry. I think the baby years are overrated. Like, there is plenty of good and exciting stuff that happens in the grown-up years, or the more grown-up years. Alright, so now she has panties. I feel better about that. She's no longer quite so naughty. When they walk, your whole life changes, because, you know, now you have to chase them everywhere. We're going to take some of this Pro Acryl Magenta, and we're going to start working this in some of the shadows on the skin. My client may be upset with the pant. You're right. He probably would have preferred them pantyless. You're probably correct. He gave me some of the, he wanted me to do some of the, what are they called? Kingdom Death stuff. Some of the ones that were just ridiculous. I was like, I can't. Like, borderline this stuff, I feel weird having my kids around. Like, I probably will not leave this where the kids can see it just because she's so scantily clad. The Kingdom Death stuff is like, no, I just can't. Alright, so all we're going to do with this Pro Acryl, we're just going to start working this into some of the shadows here. This is something I've been doing more lately. This magenta in the shadows for skin just like is like sexiness to me. Like I just really, really like the look of it. But you got to be real careful. It gives it a kind of a more pastel feel. Man, I did not blend that out good. That's a bummer. I didn't realize how hard that edge was. Somebody's got to tell me, Chris, you left a crazy hard edge there. Yeah. This is, yeah. So I tend to stay away from the pinup style. Just because I don't feel like I want the kiddos to be as exposed. So now we're coming back and we're just blending in a little bit of that magenta. I probably put it on a little too, what's the word, too recklessly because I'm on camera. We're just coming back and kind of blending it in. Problem with Pro Acryl paints, if there's a problem, they're so opaque, or they're so pigmented. Sometimes doing a what's the word? A glaze with them can be difficult because they're so strong. Right? It's like a blessing and a curse. I don't know why, Katie, that doesn't really surprise me. I would have been way more surprised if you didn't like pinups. Let's go ahead and do the lips here. We're gonna make them kind of a pinky color, right? The deal with lips, only focus on painting the bottom lip. Don't try to paint the top lip. Make sure you leave a little line, right? Like she should have a distinct separation in her lips. Like it should not just be like one lip, and then if you can, you want to kind of highlight the center of her lips to give it just that little bit of shine that happens. It's a little too harsh. So we're just going to come back in, we're just going to glaze over it. There we go. That toned it down. Now, I want a little bit more of a line between her two lips. So I've got some black ink on the palette. We're just going to make a real dark, kind of purpley, dark magenta. We're just going to try... There we go. Alright. I really butchered up the side of her face, unfortunately, with putting the magenta over here. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time fixing that. I just didn't have that magenta really at the the glaze consistency I thought I did. I should have tested it more. That's okay. I'm also, while I'm looking at it here, this strand of hair. Okay. Let's take some of our bright skin highlight. Let's work it a little bit more. And then remember, this is not studio paint. We're not trying to do super high quality. We're trying to get something. Oh no, we might have to stop soon, guys. I have broken her off the base. Dang it. That's what I was afraid of with this many. Ugh. I was so afraid that was going to happen. And if I put glue down now, I'm not going to be sufficiently good with it drying for a while. I think we're going to have to call it quits tonight. That sucks. I really hate these figures where they have one tiny glue joint. Like, for heaven's sakes, like, make the figure so that it has an actual, like, significant place to glue it. I think we're going to call it quits for there tonight. We will, I'll hop on. No! Sorry. If you've got questions, if anybody wants to show off work, I'll tell you what, I will give this a few minutes and we will see if I feel comfortable with it. I'm going to put some accelerator on here. If anybody wants to chat for a few minutes, if anybody wants to toss any work that they want some critique in on chat, feel free to send a link and we can talk over some things. It's going to take a few minutes before I feel confident with that glue on that. I really wish they would really like put better eyes. That's what literally I was just about to do, the eyes. There's a couple of different methods for eyes. I'm actually doing a video probably tomorrow night. I hadn't intended on doing it live, so we'll see. There's a couple of different video techniques for eyes. I'm just getting something here. We'll do it right here. Here we go. If this is the shape of your eye, I'm just drawing a few out here, right? So if you feel like you lack the brush control to do eyes well, and that's where most people get in trouble, is they feel like they don't paint well enough to do eyes. Then what you do is you paint the whole thing. I'm gonna have to put down some more paint. You paint the whole thing your eye color. Excuse me, it's not gonna be quite white here. I'm running low on my good whites, so it might be a little yellow here. So you paint, and you don't even have to be careful at that stage. Okay, I'm doing this in stages so you can see everything. You really don't even have to be careful at that stage. Okay, then once you do that, you come back in and you paint black stripe. And some more. Right? Okay. Then you come back in with a dark skin color. So your darkest shadow on your skin. And you define the shape of the eye. Notice this is the first step where we need any sort of precision, right? Up until this point, And this, it's a lot easier to paint the outside edge of something than it is to paint in a very confined place, right? Okay. So, and then what you do is you take your actual skin color. Now my brush is like hella muddy. Okay. You take your actual skin color at this point. Just see if I can do this wet on wet on wet on wet. And the goal here is to take and just leave a thin layer of that dark around the eye. And you do the eyes first. But I couldn't do that because I was airbrushing the skin. And after that, you just paint the rest of the face. And then, if you feel up to it, add in a little highlight. That's how you do eyes. Any other questions, comments? How's she feeling? Still a little. We're gonna have to figure out what to do with her, I think. She just doesn't leave me feeling all warm and fuzzy. Alright. I think we're going to call this a night while I figure out how to paint. I might have to paint her, the rest of her, super careful, which means I don't know that I'm going to be able to do it on stream. Because if I do it on stream, I can't be nearly as careful. I've got to pay attention to everything else. So hopefully you picked up some tips here. You know, we saw painting. Came out light blue. I'm probably going to tweak it to be a little more white. We'll see. And then, yeah. We worked on some skin. We did a lot with hair. Again, this figure has just gorgeous hair, and I wanted to highlight that. So, alright guys. Appreciate you hanging out. I'm the Spotted Painter. Thanks for the... Oh, I totally forgot. I think I saw Slongberry. Didn't you sub? I think you subbed, right? Did I miss that? Or did you just subscribe? You did. Thank you so much, Slongberry, for the... Is it... Alright, is it Slongberry or is it S. Longberry? You can go either way. Yeah, absolutely, Renru. So, I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Tuesdays, usually we try to do a speed paint. This didn't speed paint as much as I wanted. You know, we went over a few techniques, but S. Longberry, perfect. Tuesdays, we usually try to do some sort of speed paint. The Thursdays, we usually cover a new technique. If you go to my Facebook page, that's Facebook/The Spotted Painter. I should get some of that stuff up on the screen. I'm going to do that. If you go to Facebook/The Spotted Painter, I will have a poll up there after the stream to talk about what kind of technique viewers want to see covered on Thursday. And Thursday, we will cover some technique. It might be eye painting. It might be wet blending. It could be how to highlight, you know, different kinds of things. So technique is all about Thursday. And then Sunday, we also stream, and it's Big Project Sunday. So working on this guy. This guy's kind of a whole beast of a project. So it's all about, you know, working on him and how to address him and what to do about him. So, because he's a figure I'm hoping to finish in time to enter for a particular contest, but we'll see. He's one of my minis I probably spent the most time on, so we will just have to see. Yeah, I like him a lot. Thanks, Ren. He's one of my favorites. He's got so much character. It's such a good sculpt. Like, there's just so much to love about this figure. So, everybody have a great night. I will see you guys next time. Make sure you you hit the follow button, and I will see you guys back on Thursday. Have a good night.